So up next, we have our next buddy seat ride along, but the grain merchandiser seat this time. So we're going to have Colette from Team Bushel and our friend Neil from the Andersons joining us. But first off, we've got some introduction music, so I'll let you get to it.
Sorry, I lost track of where I was at there for a minute.
That's okay. Post-lunch slump, huh? Well,
I think, Colette, there's two people at Bushel I can't high-five effectively, you and Jeremy Johnson. I think that's it, though.
Jeremy, I hope you heard that one, wherever you are. Neil, thank you so much for joining us in the Green Merchandiser Buddy seat today. So Neil is with the Andersons, who works with a variety of our products at Bushel. And today we're going to take that grain merchandising experience. You obviously have that background, risk management and trading. And I just want to start into it right away. If someone in the room is thinking about taking the next step in introducing technology into the grain merchandiser seat, what are some of those first quick, easy wins that you see with incorporating tech into grain merchandising?
Sure. Great question. We high-fived there, and there was a bit of a gap. And, quite frankly, I think that we can equate that gap a lot to, what happens in our day-to-day, at least within our organization, between different, segments of the business, right? If you're talking about the back office side, the originators, merchandisers, whatever, a lot of times we can get siloed, and technology in our business gives us a common platform to where we can execute on things much quickly, all be, quote unquote, looking at the same sheet of music and, work from a much more, unified place. So, and it's come a long way. I remember kind of a eye-opening story, right? I've been with the Andersons for 26 years, and I had a Commodore desktop unit that I don't think my desk today would probably support the weight of that unit. And I didn't really think that much about it until a year or so ago. We were on a family trip to Washington, D.C., going to the Museum of Natural History, and lo and behold, there is the monitor that I started with on display. So, yeah, that's a little bit eye-opening. And how far technology's come in a relatively short period of time.
Was there a statue of Jeremy Johnson, because he's that old as well?
There was not. Nor do I think there's any plans for that.
No, I totally understand. My experience prior to Bushel in grain merchandising, there was definitely a lag even when you were sitting down with a farmer making a decision on where they'd put in a firm offer or where they wanted something to hit in the market, and then you'd get in the truck or, some company policy, you can't even operate a phone in the truck anymore. So you're waiting or pulling over to call into the back office to put in a hedge. And that is just where teams all on the same company are operating on different information.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good point. I obviously started with, where do I see immediate impact? And that was internally within an organization, which I think a lot of people, it becomes easier to look at the external impacts, right? How are we interfacing with our producers? How are we interfacing with our end users? But that's one to me that if it's a huge impact to us, it can be a little bit hidden, but yes, I don't want to gloss over the efficiencies in, communicating and all of that on the customer side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we think about Allison Nephew's analogy earlier today, we're hearing the bulls running towards us. What do we see as some of those risks of not incorporating technology into the grain merchandiser seat?
Yeah, absolutely. And the information guy from North Dakota spoke before and said, hey, we live in a volatile world right now. Everybody who's, in a seat out here is subject to that in a day-to-day, right, where volatility is crazy, huge market swings, things of that nature. So, if we are not on top of information in a quick manner, we can miss out on opportunities, both for the producer, for ourselves as our business, et cetera. So that's, one risk right away. The other thing is just accuracy, right? It's the old telephone game, if you will, right? It's like if we pass information just verbally or written enough times, it's going to get jacked up by the time it gets where it needs to go. So again, if we're all looking at a common place, then accuracy becomes a lot better, which then makes our efficiency much better as well. Obvious risk of not doing this and incorporating technology is when, from our standpoint at least, is when our competitors do. and make it a lot easier to do business with them versus us, right? That's a huge threat. So we have to be at the forefront of that, to stay competitive in our marketplace as well.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a trend that Bushel is seeing across our customers today is that, Jake challenged us at the beginning of today that we're not just the grower experience or that grower portal anymore, that there are ways to invest in technology across your operation to continue that competitive advantage, whether it's in your profitability and the margins that you have, or if it's in that farmer relationship and making sure that convenience equals that better relationship too with the grain merchandiser. And that makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to look over pennies from day to day, but those add up into dollars in the end of the year. And, for any of us out here that are dealing with volumes of commodities like we are, that adds up in a significant way if we're not crossing T's and dotting I's.
Absolutely. All right, final question, because as Neil was saying earlier, we know the importance of Beer 30 and being on time for that. So
Very important.
Very important.
Very important.
So how is Bushel helping you specifically at your company improve the grain merchandiser experience? What are you experiencing with that today?
Sure, absolutely. So, Lacey in her segment hit on this as well. Number one, through the mobile platform, having that conversation be elevated in a different point with our producer base, right? That's super important. You just, the producers talked about that here this morning. Hey, I don't have a lot of time to waste, right? And we recognize that, and we know that time is important to them. So elevating that conversation where, some of this fact finding is out of the way and over with so that we can get to the heart of the matter is huge. So mobile is definitely helped us in that regard. The other side of it too is fulfillment, right? So we were an early adopter of fulfillment. We're still working on getting that fully integrated, but again, for our merchandisers to be able to see, okay, hey, not waiting those 4 days or whatever the average was for tickets to get processed, to be able to, look and see, hey, I've got loads going here that are off grade, and be able to pick up the phone and call, to get that stuff rerouted, so we're not subject to discount schedules, and then B, to be able to get a hold of our originations team to get that back to the producer and say, hey, listen, you got an issue here. We recognize that in real time versus 4 days or after they've delivered a bin full of stuff. It's super valuable, and it just gives us a heads up. It helps with our positions as well to be able to understand where we're at real time and a lot of volume for us.
Makes total sense. Something that I've started to hear from customers is that Bushel is helping me build that forward book and establish margin on the buying side of things. But then I'm starting to see some silent margin killers, right, on the sales side. So that's where fulfillment can come in as well. Bushel Trade is helping with the grain merchandising experience with the grower. But then how are you preserving some of those margins that you've already worked hard to establish on the sales side? Just like what you said with some of those great discounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of years, we operate on some pretty thin margins at times, right? And we just can't afford to let that slip away.
All right. Well, thank you so much. One last question. Who would you have in your buddy seat?
Well, I'm sure somebody has already claimed Jake Jornstad. Obvious choice, right? No, as I think about somebody in buddy seat, it would be somebody who I enjoy spending time with, who helps me identify blind spots, and who, when it matters, tells me I'm not doing things the right way. So hands down, it has to be my wife. She's really good at kind of all three of those things, especially the last one. But no, in addition to that, I would say, in addition to her, she's been by my side since day one, so that is true. And she's not listening, so it's not a plug or anything, guys. The other side, though, as I would say, as I look at, the Andersons in our organization, it's the many business partners like Bushel that we have that, quite frankly, we could not be as efficient or be able to do what we do without the strategic partnerships that we had. So they're vital for us to have in the buddy seat every single day.
Great. Thank you so much, Neil.
Thanks for having me.